How's everybody doing? My name is Matt Ganem. I'm a grateful recovering heroin addict. On April 21st, I celebrated 14 years in recovery. I'm here today to share a little bit about myself, my story, my journey from, the very early stages of me and my drug use to, ultimately hitting rock bottom and being able to bounce back and turn my life around. Um, I'm a grateful father. I have two kids. Today was my son and my daughter's first day of school. My daughter's in remote learning today, and I got to walk my son to school. So, a lot of the advice I'll try to give, I try to use it with my son because he's at a certain age that when I look back, I was 12 years old the first time I did anything, and the first thing I ever did was I smoked a cigarette. You know, I had this real struggle with acceptance and wanting to fit in and wanting to be popular, wanting to be, um, you know, able to hang around like the cool kids. And when we were playing basketball every day, I would be at the court working on my game, trying to get better, trying to fit in, trying to be the first pick. When it was baseball, I wanted to be the number one pitcher or the best shortstop. Like I always, was driven to be the best at the things that I did. And I struggled with acceptance. And, I walked to school every day with a group of kids. And the first thing that I ever did was a buddy of mine stole a pack of cigarettes from his mother. And one by one, he handed a cigarette to each and every one of us. And, at that moment in time, I didn't have the courage to say no. I didn't have the courage to walk away from that situation, that unspoken peer pressure. It really, I felt like if I didn't do this, they would make fun of me. They wouldn't want to hang out with me or whatever. And, one by one, we sat on the corner and lit up a cigarette, coughed our lungs out, and we thought we were cool kids. And, unfortunately, that situation led to my progression from smoking cigarettes to drinking, to smoking weed, to trying other drugs. I was very easily influenced growing up. And then the more I started getting involved with doing drugs, the less I cared about the things that I enjoyed as a kid. Like basketball wasn't as important, baseball wasn't as important. Um, Started getting in trouble at school a lot. But going back to after cigarettes, it was alcohol. Alcohol was next. We were at a house party. A buddy of mine stole a few beers out of the refrigerator and handed it to us, and we drank. And there was something about that feeling that kind of everything that was going on, kind of faded away. It gave me this like artificial confidence. Laughing, joking with your friends. I felt like I was being accepted. That I genuinely had people that cared about me. And my freshman year, I was causing a lot of trouble. My drug use, it started progressing worse. I went from drinking and smoking weed to my freshman year, started trying some harder drugs, ecstasy, mushrooms, Special K, acid. Had some behavioral issues going on. I was constantly getting suspended. I got expelled from 2 different schools my freshman year. Because when I was doing drugs, like I didn't care about anything that was going on. I didn't play sports my freshman year because I was too wrapped up in wanting to get, messed up and hanging around with the wrong people. And, I ended up in my third high school, my sophomore year. And at my third high school, about 2 months into it, it was like the first time that I stopped doing anything. Like I realized that, at that moment, it wasn't cool to or at the moment at least, I thought it was not cool to drink or to do drugs or to get messed up. And, I felt like I had to get some things together or, I was going to head down a really bad path. So I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I got back into sports. I played basketball for varsity. I was the only sophomore to start for baseball for varsity. Started hanging around with kids that were playing sports that weren't getting into trouble. And that summer I played baseball, on an AAU team. My focus was back and my enjoyment of things that I loved to do when I was a kid came back. And that happened because I put the drugs down. I stopped drinking. I stopped hanging around with the wrong crowd. Unfortunately, my junior year, I was a starter on varsity for basketball. In baseball, I started getting noticed by all these colleges. I started getting offers, full scholarships. They wanted to have meetings, come tour the school, that summer I got invited to like pro and college showcases in New England, to kind of showcase the skills that I had. And, unfortunately, I started falling back into my old ways. I started falling back into, hanging around with the wrong people again. And, I started drinking and doing drugs again. And I was introduced to this pill called Oxycontin. And at the time, I never pictured that trying this little pill would completely destroy everything that I cared about, that it would destroy everything, all the dreams that I had, that it would destroy me and my self-respect, my morals, everything that I stood for. Like, I had no idea that this little pill was going to lead me down to a path of homelessness and heroin addiction. And I got my education from my friends about it. They told me, oh, it's like taking a few perks. It's not even that serious. Little did we know at the time that little pill was like synthetic heroin in a pill. And we're at a house party. Again, that same situation played out. I was surrounded by people. I felt like if I didn't do this, I wouldn't fit in. It's not their fault. Like, this is my own fault. I didn't have the courage to walk away from the situation. And, I followed suit with what they did. And at the time, my parents had split up. My mother was trying to raise me and my little sister, and it was hard for her. I was like, in a really rebellious mind state, and just didn't really care. Didn't really care about a lot of things that were going on. And when I tried this pill the first time, like, it gave me this like artificial confidence. Like, I felt like I was king of the world. Like, I could go and fight Mike Tyson, or the beautiful girl that I was scared to talk to. I could go and talk to them, and it did something for me that I can't even really put into words exactly how it made me feel. But it made me feel good about life. And ultimately, I grew this sick obsession with it, where it was the only thing that I cared about day in and day out. The invitations to the pro and college showcases, I didn't even bother showing up because, I was too busy trying to get high. After I tried the pill the first time, it was a progression of doing it on Friday and Saturday nights, hanging out with friends and doing it. Then it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then it was like, Monday, what are we doing? Why don't we go split a pill? It turned into this everyday sick obsession. And, at the time, it was the summer between my junior and my senior year, and my mother had enough of me coming in at all hours of the night, of not listening to her rules. I wasn't really a good kid growing up. I didn't really, respect a lot of things that were going on in that household. That she was trying to, keep it together for me and my little sister, and ultimately she told me I couldn't live there anymore. And I had this like chip on my shoulder. I was angry at the world at the time, and it was, if you don't want me there, then see you later. And I was off. I was bouncing from couch to couch, sleeping on friends' couches, sleeping in their basements. My senior year came around. I still went to school, and around October, November, I ended up getting kicked out of my third high school. I was too busy worrying about getting high. I ended up in a school in New Hampshire. I'm from the East Coast, right outside of Boston. But after getting kicked out of my third school, I didn't really have any place to go around, the area. So I had to move up to New Hampshire with my father, and I went up to a school up there, and things didn't change. Like, my junior year, I had sports, I had basketball, I had baseball, I had like this future. I had colleges looking at me. I could have had full scholarships. I didn't even play my senior year for baseball or basketball because I was too wrapped up in, well, how am I going to get high? What do I need to do? How do I need to get the money to do this, it's like this 24/7 job, day in and day out. That's the only thing I cared about. And regardless of like my family, my mother obviously noticed it, couldn't deal with me anymore. My father, he was working, so it wasn't, there were moments in time where he, caught me doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, but, ultimately, it didn't matter what anybody said. It didn't matter that they told me to stop doing what I was doing, or I was going to end up in jail, or, something bad, or, even worse was going to happen. And somehow, by the grace of God, I graduated high school. The day after I graduated high school, I went right back down to Massachusetts, right back to the same group of friends that were lying, cheating, stealing, that were selling drugs and, And, part of my addiction wasn't just like the getting high and the escape of how I was feeling or the reality I was facing. It was also like this lifestyle. It was older kids that I hung around. They had, these nice things, cars, apartments, all things that I wanted. I didn't really have much money. And, I followed with whatever they did. And for me, it was being a monkey that sold bananas. I sold drugs at a young age thinking that was, going to be my way out. And again, it fed into this like illusion that I was like something that I wasn't. I was portraying this like tough guy, drug addict, drug dealer, whatever. When inside I was just covering up the fact that I was like scared of the world. And, my drug use got worse. Even selling drugs, I didn't make any money because I did all of my profits. Um, Started getting in trouble with the law a lot more. I got evicted from an apartment. I had a police raid on it, arrested, going to programs. I was going to detox at 17, 18 years old. I was looking at dope addicts like, I'll never be as bad as you. I had this better than attitude that, I was only doing Oxycontin. I wasn't doing heroin. And I always looked down on them in the first few days. And they always looked at me like, kid, you need to get it together right now. Because one day you're going to be me. And I thought it would never happen. Like, this is just, my drug use just got out of hand. I'll get it under control. Like, it's not even that bad. I'll never end up homeless. I'll never do what you did. And, slowly but surely I progressed to that person that I claimed that I wouldn't be. It started with oxys, and at least I'm not doing heroin. And then I was sniffing heroin, but at least I wasn't shooting it. And, ultimately I ended up starting to shoot heroin too. But my progression from oxys to dope, I was violently ill. I was kicking, withdrawing. I had that type of mentality towards heroin. Heroin was always this like dirty, filthy, disgusting word. Like it was something that, there was a guy at 7-Eleven holding the door open begging for change. Like it was the guy sleeping under a bridge. Like it was for really low-life scumbags, and that's how I thought it. That's how I thought about it when I heard the word heroin, that it was just this filthy, disgusting word. And it would never be me that would do it. But here I am, dope sick from these pills that are now costing me hundreds of dollars a day, that I've, pretty much exhausted every relationship, lying to them, borrowing money that I never paid back, stealing, selling drugs, middlemaning, committing crimes. And, I'm completely ill, violently sick, my bones ache. And somebody came to me with a bag of heroin, and he goes, this is going to help you, this is going to make you feel better. And in all honesty, all the stigma attached to the word heroin went out the door. I didn't care what it was. The only thing I cared about was not being sick anymore. And I sniffed that first line of dope. And, at the time it was like $40 for a bag of dope that would last me a day or two, compared to $400 in pills. And it made sense not to ever go back to those pills. So now I'm sniffing heroin, and I'm looking at dope addicts that are shooting heroin like, oh, I'll be better. I'm better than you. I went back to being a monkey that sold bananas. I sold drugs to support a habit. At 19 years old, my best friend, he hung himself. He committed suicide, and I was sleeping on his couch when this happened. And, I tried to run away from the thoughts, from the images, from the night terrors, from the, the trauma of being in a situation like that. And for me, getting high was my solution to facing those problems. So I got high every day. Things got worse. The crimes got worse. I ended up, I got stabbed in my shoulder, 30 stitches. He tried to slice my throat right after. Like, I was really putting myself in these situations that a normal person would be like, you are sick, like you need some help. But in my mind, like everything was normal. Like this is just what, this is what we did every day. We hustled and we got high and went to sleep, woke up and did it all again. And, I started losing friends to suicide. A lot of friends started going to jail for long jail, bids. And it was just like, that's kind of what I felt like, the end result was going to be for me. I felt like that this lifestyle was going to end up either killing me or putting me in jail for the rest of my life. And, things got worse. I ended up going to jail, getting out, getting right back involved in getting high. I was on trial for something. Things just, it was just this spiral, like rapid spiral. And, by the end of my drug use, I'm using a needle, which I said I would never use. I don't shower. I wear the same clothes every day. I was bouncing from sleeping in the streets to crashing on, a buddy's mom let me stay with her here and there if I could, if I had heroin to give her. That's the only way she would let me stay there. And I was just like really defeated and lived a life that was like pathetic. Um, it just wasn't something that you look back on and you think like, hey, this is exactly what I want to be when I grow up. This is at 12 years old, thinking, that first cigarette that I smoked, like, hey, I want to be a homeless heroin addict. Or the first time I tried the pill, like Oxycontin was not, my future was not gonna be where it ended up. Hitting rock bottom. I was isolated on an island, separated from everything that I cared about. I burned every single bridge around me. And my mother wouldn't pick up the phone, my father wouldn't pick up the phone, and I don't blame him. Looking back at how lost I was, it was all my own. It was my own doing. And fortunately for me, I got hit with this moment of clarity that either I was going to continue getting high and I was going to die, or that I needed to turn my life around to do something different, and that like I wanted to live. With the end of my run, like I didn't want to live anymore. I was sick and tired of living, and I was hoping that I would pass peacefully in my sleep. And every morning I would wake up and I was disgusted with myself that I was still alive, and that I would have to go repeat the same cycle of hustling, lying, cheating, stealing, get money, get high, and hopefully I would have passed through the night. And then there was this one morning that, for some reason the clouds separated, the sun shined down. Like I couldn't even tell you. It was just, I realized that I wanted to live. And I'm so grateful that I had that day, that I had that moment, that, I realized that I needed to change, and a significant change. And, I ended up going to detox. I walked from South Boston to Brighton, which is not, it's a long walk because nobody would give me a ride because they didn't trust me. I pretty much collapsed in the ER, went to detox, got out of detox, stayed at a shelter, ended up getting into a halfway house, one of the hottest halfway houses in Boston. And at the time, I was this 21-year-old kid that really didn't know what was going on in life. Like the only thing I really did know was getting high, committing crimes, and all of that. Like I didn't know how to like make my bed or take care of myself. And the halfway house I went through, it put structure in my life. It gave me this foundation that like I've built a completely different life. My life, changed trajectories significantly by making this choice of trying to get help. And, I'm extremely blessed. I developed a great network of friends, and I surrounded myself with people that believed in me. And, in that halfway house, I rediscovered something that as a child, I loved. Like I loved writing. I love poetry. Poetry is like a huge therapeutic tool for me. I write during good times, bad times. It's this, tool that I use to get everything that just like, that sits on my chest. It's like an anvil that sits there. It's like the hole in my heart that I used to fill this void with like drugs and nonsense and ego filling things. And writing is this like freedom. It's expressing all my pain, all the shame, triumphs, successes. It was just like, it was just a way for me to get everything out. And then being in the halfway house that I was in, you're talking about a bunch of, those 25 guys that done time, 6'5", jacked up, all muscle. And here I was, 21 years old, probably 150 pounds soaking wet, scared of the world. And I couldn't talk to, the guy that did 10 years in prison, like, hey, buddy, I'm having a hard day. You want to talk about it? So for me, I put my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences, the shame, everything down on a piece of paper. And that was one of my ways of letting it out. And what's funny is, 14 years ago, I started writing in this notebook. I still have it. Not that I would share it with anybody, but, it gave me this voice and it gave me this platform. And slowly but surely, I started building a name and putting my work out there, and people were inspired by it. And, I ended up developing this life of purpose and a fulfilling ability of trying to inspire people to get better. Because I'm no different than the next person that was using, and me putting my story out there is trying to show people that like you can hit rock bottom and you can bounce back, that you can turn your life around and live an absolutely incredible life. In 14 years, I put a book out in 2012 called The Shadow of an Addict. Um, you know, I have two beautiful kids. My 12-year-old handsome son that, walking to school today, he's started middle school. Like, it's incredible. And then a 7-year-old baby girl that is me reincarnated, so I got my hands full with her. But she's amazing. She's funny. She's beautiful. And, it's a different raising a girl compared to raising a boy. I built so much that was directly through poetry. I built a life that, poetry was like the main focus of it. It gave me a platform. In 2015, I won Recovery Advocate of the Year in Massachusetts. I travel across the country performing and speaking at schools. I mean, this is a little different. It's not the easiest talking to a computer. Usually I'm around people and I can engage and I tell my story, I do some poetry, and then try to, ask questions, just engage whatever crowd it is, And, but I've performed all across the country, these little words that help me when I'm alone. And, I've developed a pretty decent following of people that support my work. And it's so rewarding when you get to impact somebody in a positive way and try to inspire them to have a better life. I opened up a treatment center in Massachusetts about 4 years ago, built it from the ground up, was able to hire people in recovery and help a lot of people get better. And, was able to do that. I'm in the process of starting up another one with some absolutely incredible people in recovery. And the whole basis of what we try to do is inspire somebody that you can get clean, that you can turn your life around, that you can hit rock bottom and bounce back. And another aspect of something I take great honor in is trying to educate the youth. And, what I try to do is try to preach to them, be a leader, not a follower. And have the courage to walk away from those peer pressure situations, because for me, that was like the hardest thing for me to go through, was the acceptance of my friends or feeling like I was going to get embarrassed. And it was pressure that I put on myself. It wasn't them. It was never like, hey, you do this right now or we're not going to hang out with you. It was all up here, one of the worst places you can be when you're feeling alone and searching for validation and searching to be a part of. And, what I try to do now is I try to show people the errors in my ways where I made mistakes, and hopefully that they choose a path that wasn't like mine, that they choose the path to say like, hey, doing drugs and drinking isn't cool. I don't want any part of that. Like I want to be with my family. I want to chase my dreams and go to college and be successful and all that comes with, choosing a better path than doing drugs and then following, the crowd that uses and drinks. And, I've been instilling it in my kids. My 12-year-old son knows all about, my dark side, and he knows about, the positive side. He knows that, I got caught up in some really bad things doing drugs and that I wasn't the best person. And he's never seen me get high or drunk. And, one of the things that he sees me do now is that I get to help other people. I get to give back what was given to me and trying to show people a better way. And I talked to him about it in length since he was a kid, about it started off in situations where he was hanging out with kids early on that were getting in trouble at school. And it's like, dude, you can't hang out, Christian, you cannot hang out with people. You might not do something wrong, but you are who you associate yourself with. And he started learning that and started, distancing himself from those type of people. And then even at his age, some of the kids have experimented with things, and he's very adamant that he's not going to participate in that. I also use this as a tip that I give to a lot of families, because I don't necessarily know what age your kids are, but if they're going out with friends, go buy a couple of drug tests from your CVS and have them sitting at home. One of the outs that I've given my son is if you're around your friends and they try to get you to drink or do drugs, say my father's crazy and he has a drug test sitting on the table waiting for me when I get home, so I can't do any of that. Because sometimes that's just a little tool to use to try to help your kid or prepare them for a situation, because it's going to happen. I mean, kids are going to be, around a situation where there might be somebody that's drinking or doing drugs, and, trying to educate them on being prepared for situations like that. Talking to them about the pitfalls of using drugs and where it can take you, and talk about, you know, showing some resources and videos, and listening to people who have lived experience. That you don't want to follow down that path. Um, but also, like, just engaging in conversation and keeping that conversation going. It's something that I really think parents need to do a better job of that. As well as the schools. Like, schools need to have some more involvement. I mean, this program right here is amazing that we're trying to put, videos out. We're trying to educate the youth. This country's faced with an epidemic of terrible, terrible proportion. 72,000 people died of overdose last year. That's not including diseases. That's not including drunk driving accidents or organ failure from drinking, all the things that are associated with drug use. That's just specifically overdoses. And how we prevent that from happening is by educating the youth and preparing them for situations, and trying to educate them not to go down this path, not to follow, follow the same path that I traveled down, and a lot of my friends. Because though I was blessed to make it out, like, unfortunately, a lot of kids that I grew up with, are no longer here. And, whether it was the lifestyle, whether it was suicide or drug overdoses, I mean, a lot of the kids that I grew up with, they're just not here. And it's something that, I want to carry their legacy on. I want to make sure that people, get the word out that, I don't want that happening to anybody. I don't want that happening to anybody's kid. It's one of the reasons I try to speak up and stand for hope, and try to share some experience. And, I also want to, tell my story. Like, I've been able to come out on the other side of this. And whether it's your kid in school or a family member or, significant other, like, there's still hope for people that are out there struggling. Like, I wasn't supposed to be in this situation. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was never given a shot. I was supposed to be a statistic. And that does not have to be you or your loved one or your children anymore. We recover, and we can build absolutely incredible lives. I own my own home. Like, I was homeless. I slept in the streets of Boston. And now I own a house. I got 2 beautiful kids. I got 2 huskies that are absolutely incredible. I put a book out. I have an incredible network of friends. I've been given amazing opportunities to be able to meet people across the country, through these little words that rhyme, that are so therapeutic to me, that are so, they help me get through some of my toughest times. And, I get to be a positive influence today. And that's something that, I'm extremely proud of, that my family's extremely proud of, that, I've left a very positive imprint on the world, especially coming from, like, some of the depths of hell that I went through while I was using. And I don't have to do that today. I have my family in my life. I've rebuilt a relationship with my mother and my father, my sister. I'm dependable. Anytime, when anybody needs me, they can call me up and I'm going to be there, and that's something that means a lot, because for a long time that wasn't the case. And I get to experience, my kids growing up. And, for anybody out there, like, please, talk to your kids about this. Talk to your kids about prevention, or not drinking, or not doing drugs, or surrounding yourself with better people. And I know there's some people out there that's going to be like, this is not my kid, or, this would never happen to me. I guarantee you pick up the phone, you call my mother or my father, and you ask, like, hey, did you think it was going to be your kid? I guarantee you they say that never in a million years would it be Matt that was going to get high, or my son was never going to be a heroin addict. And I think, it starts today by engaging in that conversation and getting some resources put together that, like, you can kind of walk through different situations and prepare your kids for, like, what's out there, and talk to them about it, and make sure there's open dialogue. For my son, like, I want him to be open and be able to talk to me with whatever it is that he's going through. and that, peer pressure, kids that are using drugs or drinking, like I want him to be comfortable enough to come and talk to me and not think I'm going to get mad over it. And I think that's something that's a big deal, and having that ability. And we've talked about this on numerous times. He's been there while I've told my story and performed my poetry, and it's something that he's proud of. That he tells people he's proud of me, and you can't beat that. And it's a really difficult time that we're living in. So definitely talk not just about drugs, but if they're not feeling happy, depression, anxiety. There's a lot of things that the current state of the country that we're in isolation, kids that haven't been around their friends. It's mental health is something that's serious, and you want to keep open dialogue and try to be there on a different level than just the authoritative of father or mother dealing with your kids. And I'm gonna leave you guys with a poetry piece. The big thing that I hope you take from this is, if you know somebody that's struggling, they do have the ability to turn their life around. Also with your kids, like, please engage in the conversation. Younger kids in middle school, I go around New England with a group called No First Time, and trying to get those kids to take the No First Time pledge. Like, I will not drink or do drugs for that first time, just because it's not worth it. It's not worth throwing away your dreams and your aspirations over drinking and doing drugs. There's not really a path of success once you start using. And and then carry out the conversation and talk to them and talk to them about peer pressure and how to handle, if it is presented, what are you going to do? Are you going to have a text message that's, Mom, come get me, or call me right now, like I'm in trouble? Like, set some of these things up so your kids are prepared for these circumstances. Like I said, I have a drug test sitting on the counter for when my son comes home, and that's what he has. If that's what he has to tell his friends not to do it, hey, my dad's crazy, he has a drug test, I can't do that. And then also he can text me if he's in a situation that he's not comfortable with. ASAP, I will be there. Drop everything and come pick him up. And going over those situations and scenarios are going to be big for, for your child to have those outs to, potentially save them from doing something they might regret down the road. So, anything that you guys need from me, you can find me on social media. I got a writer's page on Facebook, Matt Ganem the Poet. There's some YouTube videos. Any other questions, I would rather be engaging than looking at this camera screen. But if you had some questions, you wanted to talk about a subject, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But I'm going to close it out with a poem for you guys. This is called I Am. On the surface of a sleepless ocean, the cold depths of frozen emotion, I'm a piece of a heart broken, floating inside a love that was stolen. I'm written poetry spoken. I'm a fresh page with a mind full of things to say, reminiscing on yesterday's best days to get the stress away. Even if I'm depressed today, I'm that feeling inside. When you look your lover in the eyes that no other person alive could provide, I'm the sun setting on a crimson sky. I'm trapped inside these speakers, turning naysayers into believers. When the poem gets deeper, I'm the teacher, abusing the fact that I have the platform to reach it. I'm lost in the wind, a breeze that will never come across you again. Brought up in Boston, boxing the problems coming up from the bottom, or rising is the only option. I'm the beautiful ugly, a recovering junkie, making barely enough money to keep a roof over me and my son that loves me, and I refuse to let him go hungry because my past has come back to crush me. I'm that first breath of freedom. Breathe in the 1,000 reasons, leaving a cell block of demons screaming freedom like you just left work for the weekend. Only the work week lasted for 5 years. Borrowed time will make you see clear as you watch your youth disappear. You learn the truth when you're in there. Only your true friends will be there when you breathe free air. I'm the rebirth of Pak Poe and Shakespeare. I'm the rose that grew from concrete, the dump beneath the street where Romeo and Juliet would meet. I'm the madness created from the telltale heartbeat. I'm Achilles at war, but my pen is my sword. Using the allure of everything I went through before as a metaphor that you don't have to struggle anymore. I'm that morning light. After making it through a night that might have taken your life when there was nothing but darkness in sight. But you found the strength to fight because the sun shines bright. Once you believe everything will be all right. I'm the last words that a poet writes. I'm the skies telling the story of my past that remind me of what I'll see when I'm looking back. Similes didn't have an impact on half of that, so I literally mapped out the path from where I was at. I'm chaos finding serenity, the point beyond infinity, taking what's given to me so I could build from within my city. I even pray for my enemies, because once upon a time they were a friend of me, regardless if they see it differently. I'm trying to make history. I'm a legend. Or so I've been told by my friends that made it to heaven. As a penman, I'm the extension of their resurrection. Redemption. For anyone abusing prescription medicine whose progression led them to heroin, let that settle in. I'm the voice of a generation, raising my voice to the nation. Inspiration for every addict getting high in a basement, a kid trying to get clean as a detox patient, that they can say, I am one of the ones that made it. I am hope for those that lost it, still carrying pieces of broken dreams in their pocket. Who think happiness is found in material objects? I'm street knowledge. I'm passion, pleasure, and pain. I'm lightning, thunder, and rain. And what my mother made on the first day of May. I'm a heroin addict that changed, but couldn't wash away the stains that covered my veins. I'm Matthew Ganem, and you will remember the name. Thank you to everybody that took the time to watch this video. Please remember education, prevention, open lines of communication with your kids, and then talk about preventing and the escape routes when they get caught in certain situations that they're uncomfortable with, when drugs and alcohol are presented to them. That's where it starts. And it starts with us as parents, that we have to, try to be there and educate and talk to our kids about, what's going on and what could potentially happen. And, I appreciate everybody that's taking the time to listen to this. Hope everybody has an amazing day and that they got something from this. Thank you.